The office looms in front of John. To say he's nervous is an understatement. Since the beginning of his internship at Oxo Hospital, he has heard rumors about the chief of surgery, Dr. Zayne. They say he's an extremely cold person. He never talks to interns unless it's about work. If he finds out you made a mistake, he rips you a new one. On top of that, he never socializes with his colleagues outside of work. He lives at his office and he doesn't have any friends. All he does is work, functioning like a surgical machine without a sliver of humanity. They also say Zayne knows the best ways to get to your heart. Literally, he's the best cardiac surgeon in Lincoln City and even more so in the medical field. That's why, despite being terrified of him, interns all hope to learn from him. John is one such intern. The moment he realized he was assigned to the division of cardiac surgery this week, he was so excited and nervous that he couldn't sleep for the past 2 days. He stands now with 2 dark circles under his eyes outside the office door. Opening the door, John is greeted by the sight of a spacious, neat office. Zayne is eating his lunch at his desk, completely unperturbed. Other than eating, he occasionally pushes up his gold-rimmed glasses. Zayne turns his head when John walks over. The mere movement fills John with excitement. Hello, Dr. Zayne. I'm an intern at the Division of Cardiac Surgery this week. I'm John. As he stumbles through the first few sentences, he realizes Zayne looked at his computer, not him. John speaks faster. His name, school, major, and how long he had been at the previous division. Dr. Zayne would want him to condense everything within 1 minute. Zayne says nothing. By the time John is done, he finishes his meal. Everything he does is calculated, quick. Zayne puts the chopsticks in the box, closes the lid, and puts everything in the trash after cleaning his desk. Then he wipes down his hands with a wipe and uses a hand sanitizer. Picking up his access card and leaving his office, Zayne finally speaks to John. The next surgery will involve cardiopulmonary bypass. Observe, speak up if you have any questions. The operating room is quiet. Under the light, the patient's chest cavity is already open. Intubate, aorta, superior and inferior vena cava. Zayne oversees the progress, guiding the first and second surgeon's assistants for the upcoming tasks. Cardiopulmonary bypass. Administer the cardioplegia. The blood pumps steadily through the heart-lung machine. Within moments, the exposed heart stops beating. All right, let me do it. Zayne takes over the first assistant's work once everything is stable. John stands the furthest away. He strains to see what Zayne is doing, but he can't see anything. John is a little annoyed. He imagines it would be great if he could be Zayne's surgical assistant. Not only could he witness the operation process up close, but he could also get Zayne's guidance. But if he isn't good enough, he'll be reprimanded. John pales at the thought of being scolded by the doctor. The surgery is extraordinarily long. Standing in silence for a while is tiring for everyone except Zayne and the first assistant, Grayson. It's Grayson who breaks the silence. What did you do in the operating room before, John? Startled, John knows the most stressful moment for all interns is upon him, being asked a question by someone higher in the hospital hierarchy. I'll worked with Dr. Lewis, hepatobiliary, and pulled the hooks during surgery. Grayson smiles. Dr. Lewis, huh? He's a great teacher. He invited us to his place for cow dung hot pot after an operation once. John has tried it before. Cow dung hot pot. That's the one where they mix a cow's half-digested stomach contents and bile, right? The nurse shudders. Half-digested food? Bile? Is that edible? And isn't bile bitter? The moment Grayson opens his mouth, words just stream out like a fountain. It's only a little bitter. It's quite nice when you eat it hot. Dr. Lewis didn't have any, though, because he was called back to the hospital. Something about a student losing something in the lab. When the conversation becomes more and more lively, Zayne suddenly speaks. Maybe they lost a gallbladder. Grayson's smile stiffens. Everyone straightens their posture, their expressions more serious than the ones they'd have if they were yelled at. John can't decide if Zayne is joining in on the fun or reminding everyone that they're working. All he knows is that his stomach is churning and he can't help but think, this expert heart surgeon is truly terrifying. The next morning, two sets of mismatched footsteps echo down the hall. One is quick and heavy while the other follows hurriedly. "You didn't say much yesterday. I didn't expect you'd be so lively." The moment they go upstairs, Grayson is bombarded with John's questions about Zayne. It gives him a headache. "Well, Dr. Zayne isn't here and checking patients is relatively easy. I'm not as nervous." "It's only easy because you haven't met any with particularly nasty attitudes. The kind that refuse to be treated or take their medicine?" Grayson shakes his head with a pretense of maturity. "You know nothing." As they speak, they arrive at the door of Ward 3. When John notices where they are, he recalls relevant information. Zach, the patient in Ward 3's bed 12, underwent a heart valve replacement surgery last week. He has to stay in the hospital for 3 weeks for observation and is expected to be discharged this week. Then what should I do if I encounter even... An unusual noise comes through the door before John can even finish his question. "Hurry! Careful now. Sir, you're going to hurt your teeth," Grayson says as he pushes open the door. "Help us!" John follows. Inside, two nurses are holding down Zach, tying him down. By the time Grayson approaches them, the nurses have tightened the last strap. Another nurse reaches for whatever he's biting down on. He resists, twisting and turning as he cries out, "What happened to the special care we were supposed to give?" Grayson asks. "What's in his mouth?" "An access card." The nurse is sweating from tying up Zach, or maybe from anger. "He took it when I wasn't looking." John looks at Zach, who is unable to move but still restless. "Do we need sedatives?" "He has a history of cerebral infarction, so let's avoid that if possible. Leave it to me." Grayson maneuvers behind the nurse on the left and reaches for the access card tightly clenched between Zach's teeth. Zach mumbles something incoherent, but from his tone, it's clear that he's saying he'll swallow the card if anyone tries to take it from him. The access card is small. If he really wants to, he could definitely do it. Grayson doesn't want to force it, so he backs off. Just then, someone opens the door. Everyone is quiet. Only Zach, who has his eyes closed, is still crying out. Zayne nears the bed and knocks on the bedside table. "Where does it hurt?" The moment he speaks, Zach stops moving. Opening his eyes, Zach catches a glimpse of Zayne. The old man swallows his cry, and the only thing that can be heard is his unsteady breathing. After a while, Zach tucks his chin in and looks away. Within moments, he goes from a stubborn old man to a guilty child. Zayne points at his mouth. Zach loosens his jaw, but he still holds onto the access card. "Spit it out." Zayne sounds calm, but everyone around him shudders at his words. Zach finally spits out the card. He quickly begins to talk. "I'm so bored. No one would talk to me, so I thought..." Zayne looks at the old man and says nothing, his eyes revealing nothing. "I'll stay with you." Zach gulps, wraps himself in his duvet, and lies back down on the bed without a word. Zayne looks away from the old man and mutters something to the nurse. Then he leaves. The ward falls quiet, as if the commotion earlier didn't happen at all. John tries to calm his racing heart, and a chill racks his entire body. Dr. Zayne is scary by being able to frighten even an old man. John learns from the nurses that the old man from Ward 3 is not the only one who listens to Zayne. All of his patients, no matter how temperamental or troublesome, become obedient and meek in front of him. As expected of Zayne, the man said to be able to terrify anyone. In front of the building, the moment Grayson hears Zayne the Terrifying, he laughs so hard he's almost sent to psychiatrics. John instantly regrets saying those words, worried it'll make its way to Zayne. He repeatedly shushes Grayson. Grayson slowly stops laughing. "When I first met Zayne, I felt the same way. He had this stay-away vibe." John nods. "Yes, the stay-away vibe is strong. But Zayne isn't that hard to get to know," Grayson says with a smile, patting John's shoulder. The sun shines on the garden. Most people sitting on the grass are wearing hospital gowns or trying to find a good spot to sit in the sun. John looks for Zach in the crowd. He heard from the other patients in Ward 3 that the old man got permission from the nurses to stretch his legs. After doing half a lap around the garden, John finally sees a familiar group of elderly people. He spots Zach sitting at a stone table, his hand lifting and lowering from time to time. He's playing chess. John's view of his opponent is obscured by the bushes. He moves to the other side, away from the bushes. The person playing chess with Zach is Zayne, who wears normal, regular clothes. John's jaw drops. According to the schedule at the hospital, it's Zayne's day off today. Zayne only takes a day or two off every month, but here he is spending his precious downtime playing chess with Zach. John doesn't approach and watches. Zach squeezes the piece in his hand, putting it down and picking it up again. After some serious thinking, he finally makes a move. "You lost." Zayne moves his rook on top of Zach's king. "I lost again." Zach scratches his head, then pats it twice. "Dr. Zayne, you should go easy on an old man like me. Let's play again." "We already agreed this was the last round." Zayne packs away the pieces in a slow manner. "You must keep your promise now that you lost. Go get a checkup tomorrow." Zach's peppered brow furrows. He leans back and waves his hands. "No, I'm not going. If you don't, another doctor will see you." Zayne's words are lukewarm, but they sound quite threatening to Zach. Zach lowers his hands and purses his lips. He looks reluctant and maybe a little disgruntled. John can hear Zach mumble under his breath, "Even you don't care about me, huh, Dr. Zayne?" Zayne closes the chessboard with a soft sigh. "Don't worry, I'll accompany you," he says, sounding more friendly than before. Zach stares at the grass for a while. "Okay, then," he says quietly. But Zayne isn't that hard to get to know. Grayson's voice rings in John's ears. "Ever been to the radiology? Most patients are accompanied by their families, but there are a lot of lonely elders like Zach. Their family members only show up before the surgery. They sign some papers, confirm the surgery is successful, and then leave. The elderly are always alone during observation. They must feel sad seeing other patients with their families. That's why the care of nurses and doctors is important to them. Caring for them to the extent Zayne does, though, it's rare." He's drawn back from his thoughts at the sight of the old man and Zayne talking and laughing. For the first time, John doesn't feel Zayne's coldness. It's almost as if it's been melted by the same sunlight that blankets the grass beneath them. At noon, John stands in front of Zayne's office with Zach's report in hand. After knocking a few times and getting no response, he carefully pushes the half-closed door. Inside, Zayne is leaning back against his chair. His eyes are closed, appearing to be asleep. John tiptoes into the office and places the report on the table. Zayne doesn't move, nor does he open his eyes. "Has this afternoon's surgery started?" "Not yet. It's an hour away. You still have time to rest," John says quickly. Zayne lets out a soft and sits up. "Remember to check on bed 32, he says as he wipes his brow. "Okay." John has already memorized every patient in the hospital. Bed 32 is Jean, and they checked on her yesterday. But Zayne continues. "Call her family and tell them they must come with her to her examination tomorrow morning." "Understood." John knows Jean's examination tomorrow includes an enhanced CT scan that requires a contrast agent. "If they can't make it, you go with her." "Right," John says after a pause. Zayne notices John's brief hesitation. "Is there a problem?" he asks, glancing at him. John, no longer as scared of Zayne as before, speaks, albeit still a little wearily. "Jean doesn't seem to trust me that much. Wouldn't it be a bit—" Zayne thinks for a bit. "When I first started, I did a lot to earn the trust of my patients. They know who actually cares about them." After a few beats of silence, John says, "I understand. Every intern is prone to be influenced by powerful teachers. That's why at this moment, John feels Zayne's teachings have been ingrained into him." The next morning, as John is taking Jean back to the ward, his phone starts ringing. The caller ID shows it's a nurse from the Division of Cardiac Surgery. The nurse speaks concisely through the phone. Zayne's second assistant is unwell. John is to replace him immediately. The info takes John by surprise. He struggles to process it and is a little stunned. It isn't until he's changed into his lab coat does he truly realizes he has the opportunity to be Zayne's assistant. After confirming that he has properly put on his mask, cap, and shoes in the mirror, John sanitizes his hands and watches as the door to the operating room slowly opens before him. Under the light, Zayne stands by the operating table. Beside him, there is an empty spot where the second assistant should be. John can hardly believe it. He is actually allowed to stand there. It's a heart transplant surgery with a difficulty akin to walking on a tightrope on a cliff. Any small mistake could result in severe bleeding for the patient. John carefully observes and performs his assigned tasks, and when it comes to the crucial moment, he doesn't even dare to blink. He watches as Zayne's hands skillfully manipulate the surgical tools, implanting the artificial heart and completing the positioning of the other devices. Everything is ready and the pump has been turned off. Now all that's left is to wait for the heartbeat. 1, 2, 3. John holds his breath and focuses, silently counting the seconds in his mind. It feels like a century. Then the data appears. The patient's heart beats once more. The artificial heart is working. A man deemed to be dying in the medical field is alive again. Although John had a thorough understanding of this technique back in med school, he now realizes that theory is no match for practice. This experience is surreal, leaving him in awe. He can't help but look at Zayne, trying to find a similar excitement in the surgeon's eyes, but Zayne simply announces the success of the surgery calmly. Then he turns and walks away from the operating table. That's right. Dr. Zayne should be used to this type of surgery by now. After leaving the operating room, John still can't help but want to talk to Zayne. Before Zayne can leave, John asks hesitantly, "Dr. Zayne, why did you call for me today?" Zayne continues washing his hands without even looking up. "You needed to write a paper about this subject." John is taken aback, his gratitude preventing him from fully expressing himself. He settles for a simple, "Thank you, Dr. Zayne." As his time at the Division of Cardiac Surgery approaches its end, John is reluctant to leave. His fear of Zayne has, little by little, begun to melt in the warm sun since that day in the garden, completely disappearing in the operating room. The day before he's scheduled to leave, a student who is about to be rotated in approaches him and asks, "How was it to work with Dr. Zayne? I heard he's scary, but he's a really good surgeon. I'm conflicted." Now, hearing others describe Zayne as scary makes John want to defend him. Don't listen to them. Dr. Zayne isn't scary at all. John is at a loss for words, and despite rattling his brain for half a day, all he can say is this: "He's the best doctor I've ever had the pleasure to meet."